Too little too late for the Dallas Stars in Florida as the same problems continue to occur night after night. And they have to shake it off and find a solution because they got another one tonight against Washington. Let's break down last night's loss and then look ahead against the Capitals right now on Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer 105.3 The Fan and play-by-play voice of the Chippewa Steel. Be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. The Dallas Stars fall to the Florida Panthers last night by a final score of 5-4, and now have dropped their first two games of this 3-game road trip, and they have to get back at it tonight and take on the Washington Capitals, and they must find solutions for problems that continue to occur. And if any of you everydayers are out there listening, you already know we are hammering the issues with this Stars squad almost every day, it feels like, and they continue to pop up, and now they've lost back-to-back games and now have lost 6 out of their last 9. So really in need of a win here tonight against Washington. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So too little too late for the Dallas Stars last night. And it was really frustrating because they didn't even show up for the first 2 periods. It was pretty much all Florida. They were faster. They were hungrier. They created turnovers. They got in on the forecheck. They were in and around Oettinger all night, and they got rewarded for it in the first 2 periods. Stars just could not find a rhythm, and it was pretty much a carryover from their game against Tampa. Not playing with the puck very much, could not connect passes coming out of their own zone. It's just hopeful flips into the neutral zone just to get guys off and get the next line on. Unfortunately, their start was actually okay. Their first run through the lineup, starting right off a puck drop. Duchene line came out really good, and they kind of stacked some shifts. And they got their first six shots on goal. It's like, okay, they're starting to feel it here maybe a bit. And then Florida scores, and it was pretty much kind of Florida the rest of the way. They get the goal from Fox so late in the period to at least pull to even. But then Reinhart, of course, cashes in. He's been so good for them this year. 17 goals in his first 30 games. He's now just one off the pace of the leader in the NHL. And then in the second period, Verhaeghe scored right at the beginning of the period. Just some really crisp passing from Florida, and that was kind of the theme for the night. The Stars were just discombobulated. The defense continues to be a problem. I feel like that's all I have to talk about at this point. Suter and Heiskanen were lost on the first goal. They just allowed a 110-foot pass right through them. While they were trying to sneak in a change, and they were there, and they allowed a Panther to get loosed, and it eventually opened the scoring for Rodriguez. It was just a real interesting first 40 minutes for the Stars. They found their game in the third period, which I guess is a consolation prize, but it was almost too little too late. They capitalized on the power play right away, which was good. That was a shining moment. The lone bright spot, I guess, in the game. The power play cashes in twice. Marchment with a nice goal in front. Assist from Duchene and Heiskanen. Dadonov with a great redirection off the Hakanpää slap pass to him. And the game's tied at 3 right off the hop. And you're like, all righty, well, maybe we'll steal one because you certainly don't deserve to win this game. But maybe you'll get a point or steal it. And then just moments later, Barkov and Rodriguez score in order to take the lead. And the Stars cut the lead to 1 late off the Harley power play goal. But just could not get a shot through late. I mean, how many times am I going to watch Miro Heiskanen destroy the shin pads of an opponent? he just cannot buy a shot to get through. And that's been kind of an issue for the entire season. That's been a reoccurring problem too. Heiskanen just can't get shots through. And look, some of that's a credit to another team. They played hard. They take away a lot of lanes. And Florida does that. Look, they're not the most talented squad, the Panthers, but man, they're grimy, and they were excellent. I really believe that they were excellent last night, even when the Stars had their moments, and they didn't really have a lot of great moments, even though they scored 4 times. They really never felt like they were in the game, at least to me, just because the Panthers were harder on pucks, and they got a few bounces that went their way, and they cashed in. The power play late was terrible. I don't know what call that was on Sam Steele after he just got destroyed 3 times by Edmund Larson, and then Steele gives him a little shove, and next thing you know, he's going to the box, and of course, Florida cashes in on the ensuing power play. That was weird, but at the same time, it's like, you put yourself in this hole and you're trying to dig yourself out of it. Your margins for error become razor thin when you don't show up for the first 2 games or first 2 periods. Taking a look at some of the game scores for the night, Sam Steele actually graded out the best, 1.84. Thomas Harley has turned out to just be the best defenseman in general on the Stars this year. He makes the right plays almost every single time. He makes clear, concise, precise exits from his own zone. It's not just willy-nilly. He understands that he has time and he needs to get rid of the puck and find an outlet. Also, he's jumping up in the rush. He now has 6 goals on the season. He leads All-Stars defensemen. Picked up an assist in the game too. Just continues to have his fingerprints on a little bit of everything in the game last night. So good to see him continuing to progress, because he's the really only guy defensively that I can praise in the last couple of games for Dallas. Duchene line, I felt like was the only one that, again, had some juice. Ben, Pavelski, and Hintz had a little something going late as they tried to jumble the lines a bit. Seguin, of course, did not return after he took a stick up high early in the 3rd period. So Steele had to jump up with Duchene and Marchment for the latter half of that 3rd period. We'll have to keep an eye on that to see if Seguin's going to be good enough to go tonight. Supposedly he went off, came back on the bench, and then he disappeared again. And I think he took a stick up high and kind of the neck head area. So hopefully he's okay. I'm not going to speculate right now, but could have something to do with the head area, which of course they're going to be very, very careful with. Some other guys of note, Seguin, of course, did not have a great night, but I think his line in general was pretty good. They didn't grade out very well, but they just seemed to be the only ones when the Stars were on their heels to be able to make something happen and to force the issue. And that's become another thing I'm noticing when not everybody's going. It seems like at least that trio seems to have some life in them, which is a good sign to say the least. Top line's been just kind of nowhere to be found, at least the last week. And it's tough to be fully critical of them. They're the 3 top scorers on the Stars this year. But they're certainly not playing to the level that we saw in the last couple seasons. And that definitely is going to hurt. Otter wasn't very great in the game. He was just lost on a few. And look, this wasn't all on him either, but you give up 5 goals. That's going to make it really, really tough to beat. Expected goals against were 3.44 tonight. And Otter in his first 18 games, his goals saved above the expected is 5.0. And that's at all situations. It just hasn't looked very pretty lately. And part of it is not all on him. The Stars are giving up way too many great chances. And Florida did pick on him a bit on that blocker side. That's a a place that some opponents have been able to beat him at. He's just off his angle a slight, and he's been getting punished there. It's a combination of things. It's a combination of not so great goaltending and not very diligent defending. Both things can be true. It's not all on one person, but as a unit, the D has been just atrocious, to say the least. And an offense scores 4 times, you got to be able to win on most nights, and that did not come to fruition yesterday. So let's continue to discuss the problem, the giant elephant in the room. That's not much of an elephant. It's right in your view. This defense needs to be cleaned up, and hopefully they can fix it tonight against Washington, and we'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Jace Medical. I know we come to sports to escape from some of the crazy realities of real life, but can we talk just for a minute about preparing for real life? According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade, and that can be scary. You can't imagine a more helpless feeling than you have a child that gets sick, a significant other. Why a supply chain issue like this continues to arrive. So go ahead and get some life-saving medication with Jace Medical. You'll be okay with them. The Jace case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, skin infections, among others. This stuff could happen to anybody at any time. Visit jacemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a function of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. Go to jacemedical.com and use offer code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your first purchase. Before we jump into beating the dead horse on the Stars defense, by the way, Locked On has started its first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. So the Stars now have dropped back-to-back games and are looking to capitalize and salvage their road trip here against Washington. And unfortunately, the road does not get any easier. Now, Washington tonight, then you have to take on Vegas in a couple of days on Saturday afternoon. So something's got to give at some point. Just taking a look at some of the numbers again, scoring chances for the Stars in the game, they favored, they did not favor. They were 16-25 in favor of the Panthers, less than 10 scoring chances in each period for Dallas. At 5-on-5, the Corsi for percentage heavily favored the Panthers in the first 2 periods. Of course, it tilted towards the Stars in the third period, and that's just because they had to become desperate. And it's not a quality that the Stars can play like to. They're just not built to play from behind either. Not a ton of teams are, even though they had some push. Like, I completely agree with that. But at the end of the day, the result was what it was. And when they have to continue to pressure on a defense that is so thin and already accustomed to giving up really, really great chances, especially off the rush, it can be really, really hard to play down multi-goal deficits. And to credit to themselves, they did play okay from behind on the night. Heiskanen played just 20 minutes. Harley played just under 17. He had a really good night again, which is a good sign for him. And that's the problem, right? But they just need more good nights from everybody. Nils Lundkvist needs to get back in. They've sent a message at this point. Look, they've sent the message, and the last 3 games hasn't been very pretty, at least the last 2. The 8-1 shellacking against Tampa was kind of a one-off because Tampa didn't even show up to that affair. So Nils Lundkvist has to get back into the lineup. I would think he's going to play tonight. The message has been sent. He needs to be better. We completely get that. but you need to add something different to the mix. Niels is a different ingredient. And look, I'm not the highest on Niels Lundqvist, but if you're not going to play him, you got to find somewhere to get rid of him. I don't like, you either get rid of him or you play him at this point, because you need answers. And I'm not saying he's going to be the solution, because even when he's in the lineup on most nights, it's not like he's carrying a huge load and making a huge difference, but he does add a little bit of speed. And he does have one of the better point per 60s on the Stars. I think he's top 3 in that category. So he's at least valuable. I don't think he's going to solve all your defensive issues, but Joel Hanley is not either. And I know Joel's a nice guy to bring in when you have to. When there's an injury, that's a great 7th defenseman that you can bring in, and you know what you're going to get. But it's time for Lundqvist to come out of the press box and see what you can do. Maybe you get a good stretch here for him after you sent a message. So that is just one of the few solutions that I can come up with. And, you know, I'm a bit speechless on what else to kind of provide, because look, we know the issue. We know the problem. And at the same time, Stars are 2nd in the Central Division. They're not free falling by any means, and they're still have that good hockey in them. They're still a good hockey club, but not good enough to compete with the top 5 in the NHL right now. I wholeheartedly believe they're not as good as Vegas, Boston, LA right now. And look, this is a pretty bad skid of recent play, probably the worst stretch of the year so far. So this is me kind of Monday morning quarterbacking it. But at the same time, you know, these are reoccurring themes throughout the year. And when your goaltender's not playing to the level that he can, it really, really shows. It really, really shows. Because when Otter's phenomenal, man, I mean, he's mopping up everything. You only give up 2 goals, maybe 3, and you're winning 4-2. You're winning 5-3 because your netminder just stole a game or completely stood on his head. And he had to do that a bit for the first, 15 minutes of the first period too. But the margin for error becomes very, very thin. They did outshot the Panthers by 33-31. They were good in the dots, 55% there. And I just don't think really they didn't match any of the energy against Florida on the night, and they didn't do it against Tampa. That's another thing. Just it's not the talent that's a cause for concern. It's just, where's the push? Where's the resistance? You're constantly playing on your heels and allowing a team to come downhill at you, and you can't muscle through it or just kind of do some gritty work to find your way back into the ball game. And Jamie had a few shifts like that too, where he went in and was very physical and threw the body around. And Stars did get rewarded with some power plays by doing that. And they did cash in twice. But it wasn't enough. Wasn't enough at all. And I would just like to see them have a bit of energy, like match the other side. Florida's building's not rocking by any means. They've been getting good attendance this year, but like, you should be able to go in there and, have some pride. Like, like you can really feed off of shutting up an opposing crowd. And there was some moments of that. And I don't want to be, the Debbie Downer of the podcast today, because they did fight back, and there is something to be said for that. But you got to be able to have that fight right from puck drop. 20 minutes of hockey is not going to get the job done. And Pete DeBoer knows that. And I'm sure that's exactly what they're saying. We played good for one period. Can't win in this league by doing that, especially playing better teams. So enough with that. throwing it in the rearview mirror, let's talk about the Washington Capitals and see if the Stars can get a bounce back game. They need one. And maybe this is a great thing that the Stars are playing back-to-back. Did not play very good yesterday, and they have a chance to right that tomorrow. And we'll preview the Capitals in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is awesome. You've heard me talk about so much, Stars fans. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offer stays hot on FanDuel. And also, it feels like hockey season. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. A huge contest on Sunday. The Dallas Cowboys taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Best game of the week, could be the best game of the year for all we know. The app is so easy to use, by the way. Make some money while you're watching that game. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. Dak Prescott, if he goes in and wins this game, he probably will be the front runner for MVP. So go ahead and get some odds on Dak to win the MVP this season too. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, a official partner of the NFL. So the Washington Capitals are coming off a few idle days, but they did get spanked by Arizona by a final score of 6-0. And Arizona took down the last 5 Stanley Cup champs and kind of spanked them all around. And they definitely hammered the Capitals their last time out, as they fell 6-0. So far, Washington's 12-8-2, 26 points, 5th in the Metro Division. And they're a team that's been dealing with a ton of injuries, and they've done all right dealing with those. Backstrom's out, Oshie and Pacioretty. I mean, those are 3 very key contributors for the Capitals. They haven't scored very much, but they have been getting some great goaltending lately from Charlie Lindgren. He's won 3 out of his last 5 games, 9.928 save percentage, 2.46 goals against average, and he's been holding them above water at least. Ovechkin leads the way with 14 points, along with John Carlson, who are the 2 reoccurring players for the Washington Capitals over the last half a decade, or at least decade now. And Ovechkin's not having a great goal scoring year, just 5 goals so far in his first 22 games. So this is a team that Stars should be able to handle by all means. But at the same time, this is a Washington team that just got embarrassed. They're coming back home in front of their home crowd, and Stars are going to have to dig deep. And I think this may be a good spot for them. I'm not huge fans of back-to-backs, but this could be one of those times it's the best opportunity for them to pick up a win, because they obviously did not like the way they played. I think they probably got a stern talking to in between periods 2 and 3 yesterday, and I think they're all going to want to get back out and find their game early. So I think this is actually a rather nice spot for the Stars here tonight, where they can get to their game early, maybe pot a few goals. Wedgwood, they need Wedgwood to have a great night. They need him to be stellar. And I know that's a bit scary to say, but they could just use kind of a real easy night, at least in front of their netminder. You would love for the defense to really just kind of shut it down and make it an easy night on your goaltender. But that's probably not going to come to fruition for what we've seen so far this season. Some more numbers to take a look at and to at least keep an eye on for this Washington team. Their power play, just 7%. It's been brutal. One of the worst in the entire league, just 5 power play goals on the year, which is pretty crazy for some of the guys they trot out there, but they also have a ton of injuries. They've just scored over just over 2 goals per game, and they're allowing just under 3. So it has not been a very great start for Washington, and they do have a negative goal differential. It's a negative 13 right now. And they've allowed 65 goals. It was actually 6th in the NHL. They've scored 52, which is 31st in the league. So let's not let them find their offense. But maybe it's the perfect time for the Capitals to run into the Stars, because it seems like everybody's finding their offense here recently against the Stars. Okay, well, that's going to wrap up today's episode. I felt a bit bitter, and I apologize if that's coming through the microphone into your little ears. But, I was not happy, was not thrilled. I was infuriated watching the game last night. Just never felt like they were going to kind of rally back, which is an unfortunate thing to say. But the hockey brings a brand new day, and I will have a bright mind heading into tonight. So hopefully the Stars get a dub and salvage a road trip before they got to take on Vegas, who I think is the best team in the NHL on Saturday. Follow me on the Twitter thing at JoeyTheJet19. I'm spewing all my concerns and criticism about the Stars team, but I still love them. Okay, they're still doing well at the end of the day, but need to play better. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday night. I'll have a live reaction for you after, and of course, we'll break it all down tomorrow. Thank you for all your support as always. All you everydayers out there that continue to comment and drop a like and have the notifications on, it means a ton. I've had a ton of fun doing this so far, and I'm just excited for the year to come. So that will do it. Enjoy the rest of your day. Please go ahead and subscribe. Enjoy it, and we will see you tomorrow. So long, Stars fans.